My son told me I was a burden, so I sold everything and disappeared. What he found in my empty house made him realize what he'd lost. The rain came down hard that Tuesday afternoon, drumming against the windows of the house I'd lived in for 43 years. Each room held a memory: the kitchen where I'd baked countless birthday cakes, the living room where family Christmases used to glow with warmth, the garden where my late husband Thomas planted roses that still bloomed every spring. But memories don't pay for disrespect. And my son Marcus had made it crystal clear what he thought of me. It started 6 months ago when he moved back in. "Just temporary, Mom," he'd said, flashing that charming smile that used to make me forget how little he called. His wife Jessica followed, designer bags in hand, already measuring rooms with her eyes like a realtor sizing up commission. "This place is huge for just you," she'd said, not even waiting until they'd unpacked. "Ever thought about downsizing?" I should have seen it then. The way she photographed corners. The way Marcus asked about the deed over coffee, casual as discussing weather. "Just wondering if it's in a trust or anything. You know, for tax purposes." By month 2, they'd stopped pretending. I overheard them one evening through the heating vent. Their voices traveled from the master bedroom, my bedroom, the one they'd convinced me to give up because the stairs are safer for you. "Mom, the property's worth at least $800K, Marcus said. "More if we renovate." "But we can't do anything while she's still here?" Jessica laughed, sharp and cold. "Well, she's 76. How much longer can it be?" I sat on my new bed in the guest room, hands shaking, staring at the ceiling. This was the child I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college. The boy I'd stayed up with through every fever, every heartbreak, every triumph. The boy who was now calculating my death like a stock investment. The final straw came on a Sunday morning. I'd made breakfast: pancakes, bacon, fresh orange juice. The table was set beautifully, flowers from the garden in the center. I wanted one morning to feel like family again. Marcus walked in, barely glanced at the spread, and dropped a stack of papers beside my plate. "What's this?" I asked. "Power of attorney documents," he said, pouring coffee like this was normal. "And some paperwork to add my name to the house deed. Just makes things easier, you know, in case something happens." Jessica appeared behind him, arms crossed, that practiced smile plastered on. "We're just trying to help, Mom. You're getting older. What if you fall? What if you forget to pay bills? I've never forgotten a bill in my life." "Yet," Marcus said, and the word hung there like a threat. I looked down at the papers. My name reduced to a signature line. My home, about to become ours. My independence wrapped up in legal language that meant, "We're taking over now." "I need time to think," I said quietly. Marcus's face darkened. "Think about what?" "We've been more than patient, Mom. We put our lives on hold to take care of you. I never asked you to move in." "Well, someone has to watch you," Jessica snapped. "You're becoming a burden, whether you want to admit it or not." The word echoed. Burden. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor Thomas and I had refinished together 30 years ago. "Get out!" Marcus laughed. "What? You heard me." "Get out of my house! Mom, you're being ridiculous! Out!" My voice surprised even me, strong and clear. "You have 1 week to find somewhere else to live. This is still my house, and I want you gone." They left that day, slamming doors, shouting threats about lawyers and mental competency. The silence after was deafening. But in that silence, something shifted inside me. I wasn't just angry. I was awake. The next morning, I called my old friend Dorothy from church. She'd been a real estate agent for 40 years before retiring. "Dorothy," I said, "I need to sell everything." "Everything?" "The house, the furniture, the car. All of it. There was a pause. Then quietly, "Tell me what happened." I told her. Every word, every insult, every calculation of my worth measured in property value and inheritance timelines. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Honey," she finally said, "I know an estate sale company. They're discreet, fast, and they don't ask questions. But are you sure?" I looked around my empty house. The guest room they'd banished me to. The family photos they'd taken down to modernize. The rose garden visible through the window. The only thing they hadn't tried to change yet. I've never been more sure of anything. 3 weeks later, I stood in the doorway of Betty's consignment and estate sales, watching strangers walk through my life. They touched Thomas's armchair, examined my wedding china, flipped through photo albums like they were browsing a thrift store. Betty, the owner, squeezed my shoulder. "You don't have to watch this, Grace." "Yes," I said. "I do." The auctioneer's voice rang through the rooms. "Solid oak dining table, seats 12, excellent condition." "Do I hear 200? Hands went up. The table Thomas built by hand sold for $350 to a young couple who promised to love it. I hoped they would. Antique jewelry box, hand-carved, circa 1920s. That was my mother's. I watched it go to a collector for $800. She would have liked that, being valuable to someone who appreciated craftsmanship. Room by room, my life was boxed, tagged, and carried away. And with each item that left, I felt lighter. Marcus called 17 times that day. I didn't answer. By evening, the house was empty except for echoes. Betty handed me an envelope. Final total, $347,000. After commission and fees, you're walking away with $312,000. The house listing goes live tomorrow. I stared at the check. More money than I'd seen in years. Not because I didn't have it. I'd always been careful, always saved. But because I'd spent decades believing that money's value was in passing it down, not using it to stand up. "Thank you," I whispered. "Grace," Betty said gently, "where will you go?" I smiled for the first time in months. Somewhere my son will never think to look. Marcus showed up 3 days later. I watched from across the street, hidden behind Dorothy's curtains as his car screeched into the driveway. He used his key, the one I'd forgotten to ask for back. The door swung open onto nothing. I couldn't hear his shout, but I saw his mouth form the word. "What?" Jessica emerged from the car, phone already out, probably ready to document the house for her social media. Her face went white as she stepped inside. Marcus ran back out, dialing his phone frantically. My phone, which I'd left on the kitchen counter, buzzed inside the empty house. He found it immediately, of course. Beside it was an envelope with his name on it. Through binoculars, Dorothy's idea. I watched him tear it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper in my handwriting. "Dear Marcus, you said I was a burden. You were right. I was burdening myself trying to be someone worthy of your love. I've decided to free us both. The house sold this morning. Closing in 2 weeks? The furniture is gone. The accounts are closed. I've taken what's mine and left what never really belonged to anyone. The illusion that family is about inheritance instead of love. You wanted my death to solve your problems. I'm giving you something better. My absence. Don't look for me. I've finally learned that the people who calculate your value by what you leave behind never valued you at all. I wish you happiness, son. But I won't wait around to be your ghost anymore. Mom, P.S. The roses need watering every 3 days. But since the new owners take possession on the 15th, I suppose that's not your concern." Dorothy handed me tea, her eyes wet. "That was one hell of a goodbye." "It wasn't goodbye," I said softly. It was hello to everything I'd forgotten I deserved. The flight to Portland left that evening. I'd chosen it randomly, pointing at a map anywhere but here. The city was green, rainy, full of people who didn't know me as anyone's mother or anyone's burden. I found an apartment in a neighborhood where coffee shops had bookshelves and strangers said good morning. It was small, just one bedroom, but the kitchen had good light and the landlord allowed me to plant a small garden on the patio. I bought new furniture from local craftspeople. A table from a woodworker who reminded me of Thomas. Dishes from a pottery studio run by a woman who talked about beauty like it mattered. A chair so comfortable I could read in it for hours. For the first time in my life, I decorated for myself. No neutral tones to avoid upsetting anyone. No investment pieces that might increase resale value. Just things I loved. Bright blue walls, vintage botanical prints, a ridiculous number of throw pillows. I volunteered at a community center 3 days a week, teaching cooking classes to anyone who wanted to learn. The students were mostly young people, some struggling, some just hungry for connection. They called me Miss Grace and lingered after class to talk. One evening, a girl named Sophia stayed late, helping me clean up. "Miss Grace," she said hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. You never talk about your family. Do you have kids?" I paused, my hands still in the soapy water. The question I'd been avoiding for months. "I had a son," I said finally. But somewhere along the way, we confused obligation with love. And when it broke, I realized I'd been living in the wreckage trying to fix something that didn't want to be fixed. She nodded slowly. "Do you miss him?" "Every day," I admitted. "But I don't miss who I had to become to keep him." 6 months after I left, Dorothy forwarded an email. Marcus had found her through church connections, begging for information. The message was long, rambling, desperate. "Dorothy, please, if you know where my mother is, tell me. I've been to the police. They said she's not missing, just moved. I've called every Grace Harrison in the country. I've hired investigators. The house sold. The money's gone. Fine. I don't care about that anymore. I found a box in the attic that the estate sale missed. It was full of things she saved. Every card I ever made her, every school paper with a gold star, photos of every Little League game and school play. There were letters, too. Ones she wrote to Dad after he died, telling him about my life like he could still hear. In one letter, she wrote, "Thomas, our boy is growing up so fast. Sometimes I look at him and see you, the good parts of you, the kind parts. I hope I'm doing right by him. I hope I'm enough." She thought she wasn't enough. For me, the woman who sacrificed everything, I was the one who wasn't enough. My therapist asked what I'd tell Lily if she treated me the way I treated you. I couldn't answer, because the truth is unforgivable. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're happy, but I hope you are. I hope you found whatever it was you were looking for when you left everything behind. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I finally understand the roses needed more than water. I'm sorry I learned too late. Marcus. I read it 3 times. Each time the words hit differently. First with anger, then sadness, then a strange emptiness. "What will you tell him?" Dorothy asked when I called. "The truth," I said. "That I'm okay. That I've built something here. And that sorry isn't a house key. It doesn't unlock what's already been locked away." "You won't tell him where you are?" I looked out my window at the garden I'd planted. Tomatoes climbing their stakes. Herbs in mismatched pots. One stubborn rose bush I'd brought as a cutting from Thomas's original garden. "No," I said softly, "because forgiveness doesn't mean going back to the person who taught you to shrink. It means growing in the space they can't reach anymore." The community center asked me to speak at their volunteer appreciation dinner. I almost said no. I'd never been comfortable with attention. But something in me had changed. The woman who left North Carolina wouldn't have spoken up. This woman would. I stood at the podium, looking out at faces that had become family. Not because we shared blood, but because we shared care. A year ago, I began, someone I loved told me I was a burden. And I believed them, because I'd spent so long thinking love meant making myself smaller so others could feel bigger. The room was silent. But then I did something radical. I chose myself. Not in anger, though there was anger. Not in revenge, though it might have looked like it. I chose myself because I finally understood that you can't pour from an empty cup, and I'd been bone dry for years. I saw heads nodding. A young man in the back wiped his eyes. The money, the house, the things, they weren't the point. The point was remembering that my life had value beyond what I could give away, that I deserved my own space, my own choices, my own peace. After the speech, people lined up to talk. They told me their stories: estranged parents, ungrateful children, partners who took until there was nothing left. Each one a variation on the same theme. I thought love meant sacrifice until sacrifice became erasure. Sophia found me last, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "My mom?" "She needs to hear this. She's been living with my brother and his wife, and they treat her the way your son treated you." I squeezed her hand. "Tell her it's not too late. It's never too late to choose yourself." Her eyes filled with tears. "What if he never does the work?" "Then you'll have your answer. And you'll have yourself, whole, chosen, worth more than any apology he could offer." The email came on a Wednesday morning. Subject line, "From Lily's dad." I almost deleted it. But something stopped me. "Grace, this isn't from Marcus. It's from me, Jake, Jessica's new husband. I'm writing because Lily, she's 5 now, found some old photos and has been asking about her other grandma. Marcus is better. Not perfect, but genuinely different. He's been in therapy for years, volunteers at a senior center, and talks about you often. Not with excuses, but with understanding of what he did wrong. Jessica and I have been teaching Lily about family, including family we've hurt. She asked if she could send you a drawing. I'm attaching it. No pressure to respond. Jessica and I just thought you deserved to know you're thought of. By a little girl who draws gardens. Jake." The attachment was a child's drawing, a woman with silver hair standing in a garden full of roses. In rainbow crayon letters across the top, "My Grandma Grace's Magic Garden." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I called Dorothy. "What do you think it means that she drew my garden?" I asked. "I think," Dorothy said carefully, "it means Marcus told her something true about you. Not the grandmother he took for granted, but the woman who grows beautiful things." Should I write back? "Grace, only you know what you're ready for." That night, I sat in my garden with the drawing. The roses had multiplied over 5 years, climbing trellises, filling the air with perfume. This space I'd built, it was mine, safe, untouchable by old pain. But was I keeping it safe, or was I keeping it small? I thought about the women in my classes, the ones learning to choose themselves. I'd taught them that boundaries were holy, that saying no was sacred, that they owed nothing to people who'd made them feel small. But I'd also taught them that choosing yourself didn't mean closing yourself off forever. It meant knowing your worth enough to decide what doors could open and which should stay closed. I wrote 2 letters that night. The first, to Lily. "Dear Lily, thank you for the beautiful drawing. Your magic garden is wonderful. I can see you have an eye for color. My real garden does have lots of roses. Maybe someday, if your parents say it's okay, I could send you some photos. I hear you're a smart, kind little girl. That's the best magic of all. Your Grandma Grace. The second, to Marcus. Marcus, I received Lily's drawing. Tell her thank you for me. I don't know what relationship we'll have, if any. But I want you to understand something. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I started loving myself. If we're ever to know each other again, it will be as the people we are now, not the people we were. You're working on yourself. That matters. But it doesn't erase the past or guarantee the future. For now, I'm willing to exchange letters. Slowly. Carefully. With boundaries that protect what I've built. The roses don't need water anymore. They have deep roots now. They're strong, so am I. Grace. 6 months of letters passed. Small ones at first. Updates about Lily. Descriptions of my classes. Marcus sharing therapy breakthroughs. Me describing Portland's rain. We didn't fix anything. But we started building something new from scratch, the way I'd built my garden from a single cutting. One day a package arrived. Inside, a small rosebush with a note in a child's handwriting. Dear Grandma Grace, Daddy helped me grow this from your roses. He said you taught him that things can grow again if you're patient. Love, Lily P.S. Can I visit your garden someday? I planted it that afternoon, right in the center of my patio. As I patted the soil around the roots, I realized something. I'd left to save myself. But somewhere in the growing and blooming and teaching and healing, I'd learned that choosing yourself doesn't mean choosing loneliness. It means building a life so strong, so rooted, so beautiful, that you can decide, on your terms, who gets to be part of it. Marcus might never get to see my garden in person. That wasn't the point anymore. The point was that I'd grown it, that it was mine, that its beauty didn't depend on whether anyone else appreciated it. But if a little girl wanted to learn about roses, about how things grow even after they've been cut, well, that was a story worth sharing. This is Grace's story, the grandmother who taught us that it's never too late to choose yourself. That family is built not through blood but through respect, and that the most beautiful gardens grow from the hardest decisions. If her courage moved you, if you've ever had to choose between keeping peace and claiming peace, if you believe that dignity doesn't have an age limit, then don't let this story fade. Subscribe to Grandma True Stories, where we honor the women who refused to disappear, who bloomed after being cut down, who proved that starting over isn't giving up, it's waking up. Hit that like button if you believe respect is earned, not owed. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that they're more than a burden, more than an inheritance, more than someone else's convenience. Because here at Grandma True Stories, we don't just celebrate the endings. We celebrate the brave, hard, beautiful decisions that make new beginnings possible. Grace Harrison didn't just leave a house. She built a garden, and in doing so, she taught us all that the most radical act of love is sometimes learning to love yourself first. The roses don't need water anymore. They have deep roots now. They're strong, so are you.